Hi, I'm Arth. Okay, hear me out. I know this is going to probably be a bit of an eye-catching video to some degree, and like the sword of Damocles hanging above my head, I want you all to know that I love you. I adore you all for supporting me, watching my videos, but some days we have to take stock in what we truly believe, the ideals that we hold most sacred, and just lay out the brass tacks, right as rain, blunt as a hammer, and as sharp as Norm Macdonald mocking a comedian for just being mediocre, and just say, okay, Khorne is kind of lame. Okay, hear me out, please. I think all of Chaos has some problems. I think they gas up how dangerous Nurgle is far too much and then make it feel like we can fix every single problem that Nurgle causes by killing a single thing. I'm looking at you, Kugath, with your big cauldron. Tzeentch is just intentionally confusing and used as a writing device to explain bad writing. And Slaanesh, don't even get me started. That's a video for another day, but Khorne, I've been thinking about a lot recently. So I just want to make this video to kind of talk about it. Khorne has so many problems that I genuinely think we need to put aside our rose-tinted goggles for just a second and just talk about it. It's why I'm placing this here to basically state some grievances and hopefully start some arguments in the comments and maybe help people see my point. So, how did all this start? It started with me being an absolute fucking pedant. I was playing Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and they have made a distinction between two categories of endless spell. Basically, it's a miniature you can set up during the game. There's endless spells, and then there's endless invocations, because invocations are a category created specifically so that Khorne can have their own endless spells, as Khorne hates magic and sorcery. So, obviously, you have to just get a priest who is obviously not magical, get him to pray to his god, which the god, obviously not magical, for some kind of divine strength. This divine strength, again, I should stress, not magical, is able to summon giant floating flaming axes and fireballs, which is... Okay, do you see where I'm going with this? No? Okay, let's talk about some books I've been reading recently. Upon recommendation from Pancreas No Work, I finally got into actually reading the Gotrek and Felix books. Not all of them, I'm like 3 in. Where in, I believe, the later half of the first book, there is a story about a rightfully pissed off woman who was blessed by Khorne and was trained to gain as much power as possible in order to seek her revenge on a small settlement that she was a part of. Eldritch energies are used to seal a suit of almost impenetrable black armor to her skin, blessed by Khorne, as she does the work of her demon patron, a demon prince of Khorne. She summons beastmen, she uses the powers of a rune-inscribed, totally not magical sword to cut swaths of stuff. And can you tell what my point is at this point? Let me spell it out. It is widely stated that Khorne hates magic. Psychers, psychics, sorcerers, etc. But, like, a lot of his abilities, although under a different name, are basically just the same thing. I guess you could just say there's just a different mechanism behind them, but okay. In the Realmgate Wars, which is a fun book series for Age of Sigmar, there is a dude who carries a magical banner that can rip a hole in reality and then summon demons through it. But Khorne hates sorcery, right? Now, I might be getting pedantic about this. No, I am getting pedantic about this, but I find people are so quick to besmirch the good name of a hucked fireball at a dude, and man, because that's not the way to do it. You gotta pray to Khorne and have him give you the energies of the demons or whatever to summon a fire underneath the person that you want, that Khorne wants dead. But that's not magic, that's faith and prayers. I've played enough D&D to understand the difference between magical casting and clerical magic. Okay, jokes aside, I feel like this hypocritical rule was made to balance that Khorne isn't supposed to have any range whatsoever, because really, really good melee and okay ranged options means your army's just going to be a little bit strong. So they couldn't allow magic and had to make him a bit specific, but in the modern day, they do have access to range tactics, because if you don't, you kinda die really quickly. And even if you don't have access, you have to have hypermobility, and if you don't have either, you just kinda die quickly. So adding ranged weapons and non-psychic psychic spells is kind of just the default at this point, especially in Age of Sigmar, when you have Khornate wizards. I know they're not wizards, but they're priests, whatever. I think this example was one of the more draining ones, because you see magical shit and you're supposed to think Khorne hates sorcerers. Well, I guess he just hates sorcerers who can't bench 3 plates without arching his back. But who even has this kind of energy to put up with this stuff? I certainly don't. Or maybe I do. Guess what, you reprobates? Your boy finally snagged a GamerSup sponsorship, and thus, I am here to tell you that I quite enjoy the steadily worsening caffeine addiction I am brewing. I know you've seen them before, but I actually genuinely, this is not a lie, not a word of lie here, have been hounding GamerSups for months now to finally get a sponsorship, and they got back to me. This is not a joke, I actually have been. Their flavors are absolute gas. It helps me get these videos done quicker with less breaks because I can work later into the night. It's no substitute for good old willpower, but when I'm in the lore sewers fighting off rats and gators trying to learn about Kungus Big Bungus, the head hunter of Tzeentch, GamerSups really helps me lock in. Currently, I'm drinking their brand risk flavor, which is peach mango and delightful. Using code BONEZONE at checkout will get you 10% off your purchase, as well as support the channel. You can also just click the link in the description or whatever pinned comment I put up, so there is that. So, thanks to GamerSups for supporting this channel. Now, back to me screenplaining about the most popular things in Warhammer and probably destroying my career. My problems with Khorne extend into things worse than just the fact that hypocrite uses magic. It also extends to the fact that Khorne produces some of the least interesting characters in the setting when I feel like it should be the opposite. There's Khorne. Khorne's cool. There is the idea of Angron, and then in the modern setting, not much else. Because they took the idea of the ravaged warrior god and made it so that in the modern day of 40k, that usually manifests as screaming lunatic with butcher's nails in his brains, which is such a stupid reductionist way of making interesting characters. During the Horus Heresy, there were quite a few interesting world eaters. They were rage-driven, but they were pre-Khorne corrupted world eaters, so, that's cool. And we're not really talking about world eaters, we're talking about people who are corrupted by Khorne. I will say, in the Age of Sigmar books, there is actually a decent amount of individuals who are corrupted by Khorne and are rage-obsessed monsters, but are still pretty interesting. Korgoth, cool, he's pretty cool. But when 40k exists on a continuum of over 30, 40, 50 years, it's gonna get stale when the only response people have to you approaching them, if they've been, worshipping Khorne for a long period of time, is blood for the blood god! Blood for the blood god! Blood for the blood god! It robs the setting of good storytelling, in my opinion, and it relegates them to basically the same position the Beastmen in Warhammer Fantasy, where they are never going to really be the final threat. Maybe close to it, but they never really orchestrate a massive threat unless Angron or Khorne is involved. Hell, one of the strongest bloodthirsters in history, Kabanda, showed up at the last minute to kill Tyranids and Blood Angels in the devastation of Baal, and that had no real major repercussions outside of marginally higher casualty rates in the death of the entirety of the chapter of the Knights of Blood. But no one really cared about them anyway. I think it's bullshit. With Nurgle, any land they touch is diseased and hard to get back and takes centuries to actually purify. Tzeentch, any world that they conquer is mutated beyond reason and usually needs to be destroyed in the end. Slaanesh, you can get it back, but do you really want it back after what happened? Still can't get the stains out of most things. But with Khorne, once the killing's done, there really isn't much of a lasting threat aside from maybe runes of Khorne causing people to be magically, but not actually magically, have more anger issues. It's kind of wild. They do pose an immediate and violent threat, but with no real major lasting impact. It sucks because, to pull back, in that same Gotrek and Felix novel that I was referencing earlier, the lady who was seeking revenge for something that happened to her, the demon patron that she was working with of Khorne was very much a Mephistopheles seducer of man type of demon. He wasn't some consumed rage monster. He had an idea of honor and even referred to her as darling at times. Look at Scarbrand. Look at his face. Does this thing look like it would have said darling at any point in its life? Yeah, I thought so. I feel there can be better representations of warriors' rage and murder. I think there is ways to make it better, but I'm just an idiot complaining online and trying to share my rage to you all. You wanna know the best part though? I love Khorne. I think Khorne might be my second favorite god of all the Chaos gods behind Nurgle, and I'm not saying that lightly. I genuinely love the aesthetic, but I think we should be allowed to critique the things we love, and I wanted to take a break from my usual garbage just to complain about something that's been bugging me recently. I doubt anyone will truly care, but it's kind of funny. I decided to do this the same week I do the Angry Marines video, so I feel like it's a little appropriate. Go watch that video, by the way. I had a lot of fun researching it, and there's a lot of stuff that I think you'd enjoy. But aside from that, did you guys like this more freeform video of me picking apart aspects of a faction? Or do you prefer the more streamlined videos I usually do? Let me know in the comments, as I want to experiment a bit and try some new stuff. Also, remember to like and subscribe, and special thanks to my channel members for supporting me. And if you want to support me, as well as gain access to additional or early content, then become a channel member today. Thanks once again for watching. And before I go, I kind of want to challenge all of you. If this video gets above 1,000 likes, I'll do another video complaining about Slaanesh. Okay? Cool. Bye.